Hello and welcome to my channel. My name is Fredrik Zillén and I'm your running technique specialist, and this episode is all about this. What makes running technique and biomechanics so much fun is that quite often it's not what you think. What sounds like the logical best solution may not be the best at all. There are almost always so many variables to consider that what sounds the best and logical way perhaps not is the most logical and best way. Today I thought I would bring up a pretty funny thing. There's a runner that I did tests on had a very clear and logical idea that he wanted to try. This is a pretty good runner, mainly focused on ultra running. He's also quite fast and uses some kind of super shoe with carbon fiber plate in it. Well, when it's not technical trail, of course. Many of the 12 and 24-hour races are on shorter loops and park roads or similar. Since he likes the feeling of the energy return he gets from his super shoes, he thought he should benefit from getting a really high vertical force down to the ground to get as much energy return as possible from the shoes. But then I have a question. How would you go about increasing vertical forces when you run? How would you get more power into your stride? The most logical way is, of course, to push the foot harder into the ground. Push it really hard, because he wanted to increase his vertical forces. And that makes sense, right? I mean, I'm going to hit this hand into this hand like this. But if I want to do it harder, what would I do? Well, hit harder, of course. Logical. Push harder, hit the ground harder, more vertical forces. What he didn't see was that I smiled a little bit and thought, well, good luck, because this is not how you increase vertical forces in the best way. But I didn't say anything at first. But before he tried to increase the vertical forces, we did a test where he ran more as usual. Then he got a vertical force that was 2.28 times his body weight. Then we did another test where he really tried to increase the vertical forces by hitting his foot as hard into my treadmill as possible. And he was kind of right. The vertical forces increased from 2.28 to 2.4 times his body weight. But that's not a huge increase considering how hard he was stomping on my treadmill. And in addition, it turned out that he had a pretty powerful overstride on the first test, the big arrow in this picture. When he did his best to increase the vertical force, he landed much more under his body. Well, now, the further forward you land, the lower the vertical force is. This means that the small increase in vertical forces we saw from his first test to the second probably comes exclusively from stopping his overstride. In other words, he gained very little, if any, extra vertical force by really trying to push his heart harder into the ground to get more vertical force. So then I told him, try to do it the other way around, that instead of trying to push the feet hard into the ground, he should try to lift the opposite foot a little quicker. Well, or rather, I didn't say that he should lift his feet faster, but that he should be a little quicker up forward with the side of the hip down here, which moves the foot up, which pushes the other foot down. Whip from the hip, as the old saying goes. He focuses on this movement, and then as a bonus, without thinking about it, he gets the extra push down on the other side. And this resulted in two things. The first was that the runner didn't think that this was a good idea, as it felt so much easier than trying to create the vertical forces by thinking that the feet should push and hit the ground harder. It felt way too easy. And the second thing was that the vertical forces went from 2.4 times his body weight, which he had when he really tried to increase the vertical force, to 2.71 times his body weight. And that is a huge increase in the force that at the same time felt much easier. But was there any difference between where he landed in test 2 and 3? We know that that can affect the vertical forces, right? And the answer is no. No. He landed both times in the exact same place in relation to his center of mass. Now, I know that not everyone wants more vertical forces, but if you want to run really fast, you have to produce more force. But the way to do that is not the logical one, to try to push your feet down harder, but to find a movement that is more like a whiplash from the hip that is lifted more distinctively up forward, which makes the whiplash go down on the other side. And that's it for today. If you want to learn more about how you find this whip from the hip to run faster, I recommend my online course. You can find all the information you need about that in the description below. See you in the next video.
For a new marathon PB, you have to be brave. Brave enough to sign up. Brave enough to run really long distances. Brave enough to aim high. And brave enough to take a shortcut when no one is looking.
I really hope you liked that video, and if you did, you please click the like button and maybe also the subscribe button so you don't miss any more videos here on my channel. And if you are interested in my online course, you find all the information about that one in the description below.